Good afternoon. This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. I am here with none other than Associate Professor Bruce McAdams from the School of Hospitality, Food and Tourism Management at Guelph University. How are you today, sir?
I am well. I'm dealing with this heat. It's nice, but I'm not used to it.
Yes, you and me both. You and me both. So we're here to speak about the current situation in our world of hospitality at the moment. So I guess I'm going to get straight to the point and ask you, where is the sector today in Canada?
Well, Jamie, I think you and I tend to associate restaurants with full service, and so maybe we'll just park the whole quick service and fast food guys out. And it's been decimated. It truly has. And there is really, although there's signs of opening and rebirth, I've heard it called, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be wrought with issues and challenges, financially, operationally. We're not in a good spot, and I think, unfortunately, as I'm an optimist, I think we're gonna be in this challenging times for a little bit longer.
When you say a little bit longer, what are we talking about here? 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, or longer?
So I'm an observer of the industry, and I sort of synthesize what everyone is saying. I have quite a few economist friends at the university that I speak to, and I think we're probably a year away from anything assembling normal.
Mm-hmm.
And that means the biggest thing being the social distancing and its impact on full service restaurants.
Of course.
And yeah, so I think we're, people talk about vaccines being, the thing that's going to get us to the next step, and we'll see about that. And I can't see it happening anytime sooner, unless this whole balance that the governments have been playing with of public health and economy really tips to economy, and we sort of move away from the public safety mentality first, and that could happen. We've never been down this road before, so yeah.
You mentioned social distancing. If one were to reopen a restaurant in the coming months and adhere to these social distancing regulations and rulings, we still don't know exactly what they would be right now. But my question that keeps on spinning around in my head: how could a restaurant open, or how could a business model work? How could a financial plan work if these tables are spaced so far apart to adhere to these social distancing regulations?
It's questionable whether they can work, Jamie,
yeah.
To be honest with you. The most common sort of requirement now is 50% capacity. That's what we've seen most in the States, in Europe, etc. When I've spoken to restaurateurs and listened to them, they're saying they're lucky to get 30 or 40%. And that is based on the 6 foot between tables, because as restaurateurs, we jam people in. So even if we could do 50%, let's say we have 100 seats in our restaurant, even if we could do 50, if we take into account the 6 foot measurement, we might only be able to get 35 or 40 seats. So even that 50% is questionable. And then and everyone uses the term, margins are slim in restaurants to begin with. And some of the things that are going to happen that we haven't considered, or I haven't heard talk about, is the increased time it's going to take to serve a meal. I was speaking to one chef the other day who came off a Zoom meeting with his team, and they figured that their average time in the dining room was about 70 minutes for a guest, and they think it's going to increase by about 50%. And
wow. I had never thought of that. No.
Yeah, that's because of extra cleaning procedures, you can't just walk from the pass to a table now A to B. You might have to walk around here and here because you can't go 6 feet near a person or something, right?
Yeah,
so checking temperatures, all the different things that are going to happen. Think of cooks working on a hotline or in Garde Manger or anywhere with proximity, and how that is going to have to be redesigned. So even little things like that are going to be new challenges. And on top of that, one of the things I've been doing the last month is doing a study on mental health in the industry.
Yeah.
And I've incorporated asking about COVID and its impact on our employees' mental health, and where leaders think that's going to happen. And unanimously, I've only interviewed, I think, 13 people so far, but they think that's going to be a huge part of people coming back to work or not coming back, the fear they have.
Yes, 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 yes.
Their trepidation. I always tell my students, we play a huge role in hospitality in society. We create value. We do, amazing things. We work under stress. We're always on the go, sort of like paramedics without saving lives. Yeah. But now we sort of have to rethink that people's health is going to be something on the back of our minds. So there's lots of things to consider, and the financial models are made for volume, yes. Right? Yes. And operators now are talking about coming back and increasing price, and the question of whether people are going to go out and spend money at a full service restaurant to be served with someone with a mask and having their temperature taken coming in and sanitizer on the table, that's something altogether another question.
For me, the restaurant situation is so much more often about something experiential as opposed to sustenance, and how much of that experiential aspect will be removed because of such things as servers wearing masks, and as you said, sanitizer everywhere, and this distance away from all the other tables. I mean, normally we're craving that distance away from other tables, but yeah. Maybe not now. But then how many people will be wanting to go to restaurants? Because for me, that romance will be kind of gone.
And we've all seen on social media the plexiglass and the bumper car tables that keep distance, and those things I think are extreme. But I would agree with you. And one of my concerns about conviviality, and which is what you're talking about, is it, are we able to design our hospitality and how we do hospitality to convey that? I have a friend, she has a restaurant, they opened on Monday in Crete, in Hanya, and she said, I have to wear a mask. It's 35 degrees outside and we have to wear a mask. She goes, I'm going to try to learn to smile with my eyes. We were talking about this very topic about how can you be welcoming? How can you create that experience? And I've been speaking to people about takeout right now, and this whole, pivot to takeout and delivery. And you're not getting a restaurant experience. You're not. You're getting restaurant food, of which the quality will be okay, hopefully, if it travels well, etc. And it's great to support the restaurants, etc. But you and I are probably, I'm longing to get out, as you said, to a restaurant and feel the buzz and the energy in a room and hear the pop of a cork, right? And the ice bucket, for some spark, all that stuff. Yeah. That cannot be, I don't think it can be easily reproduced in this environment. And that's, I think that will come back in after a first visit or two for people where they do come back, they do want to support, and they're really keen to support the restaurant, the community, but the experience doesn't deliver. And maybe they're more conducive to, hey, you know what, we'll sit in our backyard and have some friends over and social distance so I'm worried about that as well.
An interesting question for you, Bruce, being an industry veteran. How do you feel the Canadian government's response has been to the ongoing pandemic with relation to the hospitality sector?
So, there's two major stakeholders in our industry, and Jamie, and that's the employees and the owners. Those are the big two. right? If we want to talk about government response. And I think with the first group with employees, the ones I've spoken to have felt fairly good. People got laid off March 15, and most of them had some money in their account the first week of April. And CERB seemed to work pretty well, and there was some good reception to that. My students, many of them lost their summer jobs and felt really good about the summer student program monies that came out.
Yeah.
So I think the government did a fairly good job responding to the employees. Not everything is perfect, and everyone will have different things. But I think, as an observer and listening to people, I think that was done relatively acceptably.
Okay.
Owners are a different story, and there's different things I've been hearing. Small business owners, with the $40,000 loan, have been quite receptive to that and quite positive about that. Everyone missed on the payroll subsidy because everyone got laid off, and then the program was rolled out a month later, and so we sort of missed the boat on that.
Yeah.
And the rent program, is more geared. Landlords have to participate, and large restaurateurs don't qualify for that because of the amount of sales as well. So the large owners, the big players are not particularly happy with the response. The smaller ones, it's a bit of a mixed bag. I think the owners in general aren't quite, and I would agree, aren't quite as happy. And perhaps the biggest issue that I take is that there hasn't been a specific restaurant or hospitality program reaction from the government. We in restaurants alone, we employ 1.2 million Canadians.
Yeah.
Every $1 million in a restaurant that's generated, we employ 16 people to generate that. That's more than almost any other industry. So I think, the one thing that's disappointed me is the fact that there hasn't been a specific response. There's been to agriculture, there's been to fisheries. Those have been relatively small in they're millions of dollars, but there hasn't been a restaurant or hospitality specific. And that, I think, has been the biggest disappointment.
Because they've just been grouped in with small business.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
A question for you, and since you are an eternal optimist, I really would like to get this answer from you, or at least your idea of what could be going on. How many restaurants, what percentage of restaurants do you think will reopen when the when the closures are lifted? How many will be able to? How many will have been able to sustain things economically until they're allowed to reopen? And how many of them will choose to reopen?
Yeah. I think that's the big question, first of all, and that's the question I've had with, I've had, like you, many friends who own restaurants that graduated and own restaurants. We've been having this discussion, and some of them have said, I'll lose less money staying closed than I'll lose money opening again. And the thought of bringing staff back for a month or two to realize this, and then having to, go down that road is so painful that I'm just not going to do it. I've spoken to a few people in BC that waited BC opened up last week, a week and a half ago, and a couple of operators I spoke to yesterday had waited a week just to go into other restaurants to see what they really want to do it. I hate to put a percentage on it, Jamie, but in every week or two I'm feeling a little different.
Right.
This week I'm not particularly positive as far as reopening and the amount of people. I think there's going to be significant. There's going to be some significant, either people not reopening or reopening and closing. It could be as many as half. It could be as many as half.
Wow.
Operators and independent restaurants are.
I mean, the independent restaurants have always been on the kind of knife edge anyway, and I think this is, for many establishments, it's almost like they have, as they would say with the human body, underlying conditions anyway. It's a sad thing to say, but this
No.
really exposes those underlying conditions.
And one of those is a weak balance sheet,
Yeah.
and not having any equity in your name, renting, and this is something that's relatively new in the last 20 years, is the high percentage of operators now that rent and lease versus owning their own property.
Yeah.
That independent restaurateur that used to own the building that he or she had the restaurant in is gone the way of the dodo bird almost, and when you don't have that, it's an issue. I heard Janet Zuccherini yesterday talking about how one of the great things she has that makes her feel better is she owns 6 of the buildings she's in, so she feels at least comfortable that she's going to weather this, and because of that asset, that equity she has.
And then I was reading in the National Post the other day the interview with Charles Caboth that he doesn't own any of those buildings. So, and he has multiple outlets both in the States and in Canada, but doesn't own any of the property.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people like that. Grant Van Gameren, I heard he has 9 restaurants. He doesn't own any. Even Oliver and Bonaccini. They don't own the property. So that really just weakens your balance sheet. And when you go into this sort of predicament, that little bit of a safety net that can be there, is not necessarily there.
Well, it's not all doom and gloom. There have been some positive aspects to have come out of this. In your mind, what is the silver lining to all of these damn clouds right now, for you personally or for the industry?
Yeah, I'm going to say for the industry, for restaurants in general, what I have really noticed, there's been phases, Jamie, and everyone was in shutdown mode, let's just, crisis mode. Yep. And then they went into pivot mode and redesigning and what are we going to do? Then there was the, why, where's the government money, stage. And what I've seen evolve in the last month that's really fascinating to me is this group of progressive forward thinkers, Amanda Cohen, Robert Belcham, Todd Perrin.
Yeah.
These sorts of people, I mentioned all chefs, but these are people who are now saying they're not going to reopen their businesses using the same model that they did pre-COVID because it has been shown to be a weakness, the model we've used. So, whether it's compensation, whether it's for me, the big thing, a lot of these people are mentioning pricing. For me, it's more, and you can talk about incorporating demand-based pricing, which is, you come into my place on Monday, the burger's $18. You come in on Friday, it's 21, right? Just like it's revenue management, basic revenue management for hotels or for even sporting now have moved to that. But this idea of productivity versus labor cost, and the division of labor, that I think coming out of this, and people are starting to talk about it, is really, really key. The day of having a hostess stand at the front door I think is gone. And having 2 houses, even where it's been shown that we've divided work into having a front and back, and there's huge productivity gaps in both.
Yes. Yep.
Breaking down that wall and saying, to do 100 covers, I have 8 in the back, 8 in the front. Maybe I could do 100 covers and use 13 if we broke down the barriers between the division of labor. That to me is a key thing moving forward, and I think we need to look at that. I think this process we're going through, pivoting, where I was talking to an operator yesterday in Hamilton. He's got 3 restaurants. He's the one doing takeout, right? Yeah. And so I think these people are starting to think now about productivity more, and so I think that's going to be a key, and I think that will make us stronger.
Well, many of us have been saying for a long time that many of the aspects of our industry were broken to a certain degree. And we were always talking about this great adjustment coming. It's just a pity it's had to come through
Yeah.
this particular pandemic.
And I told you, I've you know, I refused to speak until today. You're the first person I've spoken to in, you know, any form of, you know, media or
Yeah, yeah,
requests. And the reason is, I'll be honest with you, I was just so sad,
yeah.
and I am sad, and I have so many friends and colleagues that I'm devastated for, that I just really, until, you know, the last week or two, I just didn't want to talk about it or analyze it, you know, formally, because of that. But you know, and I will argue, you know, I don't want to say that something good is going to come out. It's shit where we are now.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's shit. But maybe there'll be some good that we can do.
Well, Bruce, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for spending time with Good Food Revolution today. And perhaps we can catch up in a month or so and see where we're at.
Very good, Jamie. Be well. Be safe.
And stay safe. Bye for now.
Thank you.